You canceled the streams, survived the sad desk lunch, even quit the $5 coffee riot, and your balance still won't budge.
Плачем horsidis. Maybe it's not a spending problem. Maybe it's an income problem.
Today, we unpack the hybrid play. Cut unconscious waste. Crush high-interest debt. Then stack income with a raise, smarter skills, and a lean side hustle.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, let's just take a moment here. Anyone else ever just stared at their budget spreadsheet like completely defeated?
Oh, yeah.
You've done all the hard stuff, right? You canceled the streaming things you hardly watch. You embraced the sad desk lunch.
The saddest.
And yes, you even quit that amazing, glorious $5 morning coffee. But then, after months of feeling like you're punishing yourself financially, you look at your bank account and nothing. It hasn't really moved. The stress.
Right.
Still there?
Right. And that feeling, that huge effort for what feels like tiny results, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We've gone through a ton of sources, economic reports, what people are saying on finance forums, insights from, modern wealth builders.
And we're asking that big question, is this really a spending problem you have? Or is it maybe an...
Click subscribe, ring that bell, and stay until the very end.
income problem?
Yeah, is the root cause different?
Our mission, really, in this deep dive is to unpack why that old school cut costs first advice, especially right now in, 2024, 2025, often just puts a lid on things. It's a ceiling, not really a launch pad for getting ahead financially.
Exactly. So let's get clear on two key ideas first. When we say cutting expenses or frugality, that's the classic advice. Trim the daily costs, the monthly bills, the little luxuries. Think apps, coupons, the whole deal.
Got it.
Then there's increasing income. That's actively finding ways to bring more money in, negotiating your salary, maybe a side hustle, investing smartly, learning new skills.
And this whole conversation feels incredibly urgent right now. Looking at the U.S. economy lately, this isn't just theory, it's hitting people hard. U.S. household debt just soared past, $18.39 trillion?
Yeah, Q2 2025, it's staggering.
And savings. Well, emergency funds look pretty shaky. Almost a quarter of Americans have, no emergency fund. Zero.
And only about half, less than half actually, have enough to cover 3 months of expenses.
Right. And then you see real earnings basically flatlining, even dipping like they did last August. The old path it doesn't seem to lead anywhere promising for a lot of folks.
The numbers just aren't adding up like they used to.
Quick favor, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, smash like, leave a comment, and stick around for more.
Okay, let's really unpack this. Let's start with the frugality trap, as you called it. What are the real hard limits when you only focus on cutting back?
Well, the biggest limit is just basic math. The financial ceiling. You can cut your spending, sure, but you can only cut so far, right? You hit zero eventually.
Right.
If you make, say, $40,000 a year and you're incredibly disciplined, maybe you save 25%. That's $10,000, which is great discipline, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, that's impressive saving.
But it's still mathematically capped.
Yeah.
You simply can't save your way to $1 million portfolio or even a house down payment in many places within a reasonable time if your starting income isn't high enough.
And honestly, beyond the numbers, there's the psychological hit. I think that's almost tougher sometimes. This, what did you call it? The misery factor, that financial diet feeling. The sources we looked at were full of that.
Oh, absolutely. That misery is real. We saw comments exactly like that in the forums. I cut everything I possibly could, but I still can't save for a down payment, still stuck in debt. It just feels like I'm not living. That kind of deprivation, it's just not sustainable long term.
No.
You burn out, and then what happens? Often a huge spending rebound that wipes out all the progress you made.
I admit, I once tried to calculate the cost per sheet of toilet paper. That was a low point. I realized the anxiety was costing me more than the potential savings.
Exactly. That's the perfect example. And then layer on the inflation effect. Even if you're super frugal, your basic costs, housing, food, energy, those are mostly fixed, and they keep going up.
You can't negotiate your rent down usually.
Right. So like one person put it, cutting out that morning coffee is just not going to buy you a house. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Those rising fixed costs just eat away at your little daily savings. You feel like you're just running in place.
Okay, but I think the deepest trap here, the one people miss, is the opportunity cost. The time you pour into saving pennies when you could be chasing dollars, right?
This is so crucial.
Hit that subscribe, bell it up, and ride the full wave with me.
Think about the return on your time, your ROI. The real choice isn't just coffee versus no coffee.
Okay.
It's spending, say, 3 hours every Saturday hunting for coupons, comparing surf flyers, micromanaging your grocery list to maybe save, what, $20?
If you're lucky.
Right. That works out to maybe $6 or $7 an hour for your time. Versus using those same 3 hours to finish an online course, maybe project management certificate, or practicing a new skill like data analysis, something you could potentially use to get even a modest 10% raise.
Which is thousands a year.
Exactly. Thousands. When you're laser focused on saving pennies, you often miss the chance to invest in yourself, your skills, your education. And that is almost always the highest ROI investment you can possibly make.
Okay, so if that's the trap, let's talk about the escape hatch. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Why is focusing on income growth such a powerful strategy, especially now?
It really comes down to potential, income growth.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have a cap, does it?
Yeah.
Unlike cutting expenses, which bottoms out at zero, your ability to earn more is theoretically unlimited. It's limited only by your creativity, your effort, your skills, the value you bring to the market. You can add one income stream, then maybe another, then a third. You can accelerate things exponentially.
And the mental shift, too, that feels huge. When you switch your focus to earning, you go from feeling like you're just reacting helplessly to high prices.
Yeah, passively.
To actively trying to increase your own value in the market.
Right.
That's going to feel empowering, right? It reduces some of that constant money anxiety.
Absolutely. It fosters a sense of control.
Yeah.
And practically speaking, when you have a higher income, you build a buffer, a much bigger cushion.
Right.
That larger income stream means you can handle those unexpected financial shocks, the car breaking down, a surprise medical bill, maybe even losing your job much more easily than someone scraping by with minimal savings. It's the difference between living in constant fear and having genuine financial control.
Okay, but hang on. We have to address the pushback, right? The whole frugality first camp, like the Dave Ramsey followers, they'd argue quite strongly that if you don't get your spending discipline sorted out first, won't earning more just lead to lifestyle creep? You just spend more? How does the research handle that very real psychological issue?
That's a super important point and a valid challenge. We were definitely not saying discipline doesn't matter. It absolutely does.
Okay.
The traditionalists are right on that. Discipline is foundational. But the more modern thinking, what you might call the hybrid approach, suggests focusing that discipline very specifically.
On what?
Two main things. First, getting rid of toxic high-interest debt. That's crucial. And second, stopping what we could call unconscious waste.
Unconscious waste. Define that.
That's the money flying out the door on things you genuinely don't value or barely even use. You know, the gym membership you forgot about, 3 streaming services when you only watch one, grabbing takeout because you didn't plan ahead even though there's food at home.
We've all been there.
Right. Cut that stuff ruthlessly. Not necessarily to get rich from the savings, but to free up your mental energy and maybe a little capital. And then you channel, say, 90% of your focus and energy towards increasing your income. Discipline builds the floor, keeps you stable. Earning potential raises the ceiling.
That makes sense. Discipline for stability, earning for growth. So this brings up a really practical question. How should people prioritize? Because earning more looks very different depending on where you are in life, right? Your age, your income level here in the U.S.
Exactly. That context is key. Let's look at Gen Z and millennials, roughly ages 18 to 43. What are their big pain points? Student loans, often crushing ones. The insane pressure to buy a home, feeling like they're living paycheck to paycheck, even on decent salaries.
Yep, sounds familiar.
So their strategy often needs to be about high-volume income acceleration.
And that explains why we see so many younger people in the gig economy, right? Almost half of Gen Z and millennials are doing side hustles.
Precisely. They're often focused on building scalable digital skills, things they can do with low overhead. They're maybe less focused on squeezing out a tiny annual raise and more interested in adding, say, $500 or even $2,000 a month through things like specialized coding, AI prompting, creating SEO content. They want financial independence sooner rather than later.
Okay, contrast that with Gen X, folks aged, 44 to 59?
Right. They're often nearing or at their peak earning years in their main career. Their major worries. The retirement savings gap, feeling behind, and maybe paying for kids' college.
The big ticket items.
Huge. Yeah. So for many Gen Xers, the biggest immediate ROI might not be starting a brand new side hustle from zero. It's often about leveraging the experience and internal political capital they've built up in their careers. Meaning aggressively negotiating salaries, maximizing contributions to retirement accounts, maybe optimizing long-term investments, using the position they already have.
Okay, and what about folks at the lower end of the income scale, say under $30,000 a year?
Yeah, for that group, cutting expenses isn't really a strategy. It's survival. It's absolutely essential day to day, period. But we have to acknowledge that simply cutting isn't a path out. Increasing income is realistically the only way to achieve long-term stability and security. The big danger there, though, is burnout.
How so?
They often end up in low-wage, service-based side gigs, driving for ride shares, delivery apps, and things that trade a lot of time for not much money. It leaves them exhausted without really moving the needle financially.
Right. So, okay, let's say people are on board with this hybrid approach. Cut the waste, focus on growth. What are the absolute highest impact actions they can take, like right now?
Okay, let's get practical. Number one, and this applies to almost anyone with a traditional job, high ROI salary negotiation. This is often the single most powerful move.
And we're not talking about just keeping up with inflation here, are we?
No, definitely not.
Right.
Think bigger. Let's say you get a 10% raise on a $70,000 salary. That's an extra $7,000 every single year.
Wow.
That one conversation, that one successful negotiation probably dwarfs 10 years of skipping that $5 coffee.
Okay, so how do you actually do it effectively?
Preparation is key. You need to go in armed with, say, 3 to 5 solid, quantifiable wins, proof of the value you specifically brought to the company, and crucially, do your homework. Research salary ranges for your role and experience on sites like Glassdoor. Then, anchor your request maybe 10% to 20% higher than the top of that range.
Ask for more than you expect to get.
You have to ask for a number that feels maybe even a little uncomfortable. Be ambitious.
Okay, that covers folks already in the system. What about others or people looking to add streams? Strategy 2 must be the smart side hustles, right? Leveraging the gig economy.
Exactly. The gig economy is massive, a multi-trillion-dollar space now. But like we touched on, you have to be smart about it. Prioritize value over just time. Seek out those high-income skills.
What actually makes a skill high income in this context?
Leverage, basically. Can you apply expertise rather than just trading hours? Think about data analysis, specialized AI prompting, maybe project management certification. These skills might let you charge $80, $100 an hour or more because you're solving a higher value problem.
Not just driving or delivering.
Right. It's nonlinear income potential. Try to avoid tasks that are easily automated or outsourced for pennies. Focus on skills you can learn relatively quickly, weeks or months, that solve specific, expensive problems for businesses or individuals.
And the third strategy seems foundational to all of this. Investing in yourself.
Absolutely fundamental. Putting your time, and yes, sometimes your capital, into new education professional certificates, targeted workshops, high-quality online courses that consistently shows up as the investment with the highest potential long-term returns. Your skill set is your number one asset in today's economy.
Okay, before we wrap up the how-to, there's one massive pitfall with side hustles, something that can really trip up new entrepreneurs if they're not ready for it.
Oh yeah, the hidden landmine, taxes. Specifically, the tax implications of side hustles and 1099 income.
Explain that.
Okay, so when you work a regular job, a W-2 job, your employer pays half of your FICA taxes, that's Social Security and Medicare, about 7.65%.
Right, it comes out of your check.
But when you're a 1099 contractor, self-employed, doing a side hustle, you are now both the employer and the employee in the eyes of the IRS.
Uh-oh. So you pay both halves?
Exactly. You get hit with the full self-employment tax, which is currently 15.3% on your net earnings from self-employment, up to a certain limit. If you haven't planned for that, haven't set money aside.
Ouch.
Yeah. You could face a massive, unexpected tax bill come April. It can completely wipe out your profits from the hustle. You have to account for this, set aside money, probably pay quarterly estimated taxes. It's the difference between a successful side business and a financial nightmare.
That is critical advice. Okay, so let's pull this all together. What's the final message we want people to take away from this deep dive?
I think the big takeaway is embracing that hybrid approach. Use discipline strategically. Eliminate the high-interest debt. Cut the unconscious waste, the stuff you truly don't value, mainly to free up your headspace and maybe a bit of cash. But then, You got to shift the vast majority of your focus, your energy, your time towards income growth, because that's the lever that has virtually unlimited upside.
Yeah, we really need to reframe the internal conversation. Stop obsessing over how little can I possibly spend, and start seriously asking, how much could I earn? And what skills do I need to learn to make that happen? Maybe you don't actually have a spending problem. Maybe you have an income problem.
Your potential isn't ultimately defined by how much you save each month. It's defined by how much you can earn. That's the real ceiling, or lack thereof.
Right. So thinking about that, here's a challenge for everyone listening.
Yeah.
What's one high-income skill you're going to commit to exploring or starting to learn in the next 90 days? Maybe it's data visualization, maybe AI prompting, maybe advanced negotiation skills.
Whatever it is for you.
Let us know. Share your choice down in the comments. We'd love to see what skills our community is focusing on right now.
Yeah, definitely share. And hey, if you found this conversation useful, if it maybe shifted how you think about your finances, please hit that subscribe button. We want to help you break through that financial ceiling, and you won't want to miss our next analysis.